The December 1840 Comanche raid on Saltico was not merely a clash of arms. It was a cataclysmic event that epitomized the intense struggles between Native American horse cultures and the encroaching powers of Mexico. To understand the profound significance of this raid, it is essential to delve into the broader historical forces at play, forces that shaped the lives of both the raiders and their victims. The raid occurred at a time when the Comanche were at the zenith of their power, dominating vast swarms of the southern plains and striking terror into settlers far and wide. Yet the supremacy was hard-earned, forged through centuries of adaptation, conflict, and resilience. The Mexican frontier, meanwhile, represented a fragile and embattled society, stretched thin by internal turmoil and external threats. Against this backdrop, the raid on Saltico unfolds as a tale of audacity, destruction, and survival. The Comanche did not always rule the southern plains. Before the 17th century, they were a relatively obscure group, living in the cold and unforgiving regions of the northern Rockies, known as the Numunu, meaning the people in their language. They were skilled hunters and foragers, but lacked the mobility and reach that would later define their dominance. The introduction of the horse, brought to the Americas by Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century, changed everything. By the early 1700s, the Comanche had fully integrated horses into their culture, becoming masterful riders and breeders. This transformation gave rise to a new way of life centered on nomadic buffalo hunting, extensive trade networks, and relentless raiding. Comanche society was organized into bands, each led by a council of respected warriors and elders. These bands operated semi-independently, united by a shared language, culture, and common enemies. Their decentralized structure made them highly adaptable, enabling them to respond quickly to threats and opportunities. Raiding was central to Comanche life, serving as both an economic necessity and a cultural imperative. Young warriors earned prestige and status through daring exploits, while the spoils of raids, horses, captives, and goods sustained their communities. Warfare was both pragmatic and symbolic, a means of securing resources and demonstrating dominance. The Comanche's mastery of horseback riding was unparalleled. Their ponies, descended from Spanish mustangs, were small but incredibly hardy, capable of traveling long distances with minimal sustenance. The Comanche trained their horses not just for speed, but also for maneuverability, allowing them to execute complex battlefield tactics. Warriors often rode with multiple spare mounts, ensuring they could sustain their momentum during extended campaigns. The horse was more than a tool of war. It was a cornerstone of Comanche identity. Herds of horses were a measure of wealth and power, and their care was a communal effort involving men, women, and children. This deep connection to their animals set the Comanche apart from their adversaries, whose reliance on less mobile infantry often left them at a disadvantage. Northern Mexico in the early 19th was a frontier in every sense of the word, a vast, sparsely populated region where civilization clashed with untamed wilderness. The settlements of Coahuila, Chihuahua, and Nuevo Leon were isolated outposts, connected to the heart of Mexico by fragile trade routes and a tenuous sense of shared national identity. The Mexican War of Independence, 1810 to 1821, had left the young nation in disarray, with its northern territories particularly vulnerable. Politically fragmented and economically strained, Mexico struggled to assert control over its borderlands. Settlers faced constant threats, not only from Native American raids, but also from bandits' rival factions, and increasingly, encroaching American settlers from the north. For the people of northern Mexico, life was a precarious balance between subsistence and survival. Agriculture was the backbone of the economy, with small-scale farming and livestock herding providing the means to endure. Towns like Saltillo and San Luis Potosí served as regional hubs, where trade goods from central Mexico could be exchanged for local products such as wool, silver, and hides. However, prosperity was fleeting. In the face of relentless Comanche raids, these attacks devastated local economies, destroying crops, stealing livestock, and disrupting trade. The psychological toll was equally severe, as the specter of violence hung over every aspect of daily life. The Mexican military tasked with defending the frontier was ill-equipped for the challenge. Soldiers were often poorly trained, underfunded, and demoralized. Garrisons were scattered across vast distances, making coordinated defense nearly impossible. Moreover, many soldiers were conscripts, with little loyalty to the national government, and desertion rates were high. In contrast, the Comanche operated with a level of coordination and discipline that belied their decentralized political structure. Their raids were meticulously planned, targeting vulnerable settlements and exploiting the weaknesses of their enemies. Against such formidable adversaries, the Mexican military found itself outmatched time and again. The December 1840 raid on Saltico was not an isolated event, but the culmination of a series of incursions by the Comanche and their allies. Earlier that year, the Comanche had launched devastating attacks on settlements along the Rio Sabinas, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. These raids were part of a broader strategy to weaken Mexican control over the northern frontier and secure resources for their people. As the Comanche forces gathered near the Rio Grande, their leaders devised a bold plan to strike deep into Mexican territory. Saltillo, the capital of Coahuila, was an ambitious target far beyond the usual range of Comanche raids. However, its wealth and strategic importance made it an irresistible prize. The Comanche journey southward was a remarkable feat of endurance and logistics, moving a large group of warriors, along with their horses and supplies, across hundreds of miles of rugged terrain required meticulous planning. The Comanche relied on their intimate knowledge of the land, using hidden trails and natural features to avoid detection. Along the way, the raiders struck smaller settlements, gathering additional resources and spreading fear among the populace. These preliminary attacks served a dual purpose. They weakened local defenses and ensured that the Comanche entered Saltico at the height of their strength. Saltillo, with its adobe buildings and cobblestone streets, was a city of contrasts. Its colonial architecture and thriving markets spoke of prosperity, yet its defenses were woefully inadequate. Most of the city's military forces had been dispatched to protect outlying areas, leaving only a small contingent of militiamen under the command of Don José María Goribar. Goribar, a respected figure in the community, faced an impossible task. His forces were outnumbered and outmatched, and the city's fortifications were little more than symbolic. As reports of the approaching Comanche reached Saltillo, panic spread among the residents. Families hastily barricaded their homes, while others fled to the surrounding countryside in search of safety. The Comanche arrived at the outskirts of Saltillo under the cover of darkness. Using their signature tactic of feigned retreat, they lured Goribar and his men into an ambush. The resulting battle was a one-sided slaughter, with the Mexican defenders overwhelmed by the Comanche's speed and ferocity. Goribar himself fell in the fighting, his death marking the final collapse of organized resistance. With no defenders left to oppose them, the Comanche poured into the city. Fires broke out across Saltico as the raiders set homes and businesses ablaze. The streets were filled with chaos as residents scrambled to escape the violence. Those who could not flee were subjected to unimaginable horrors, looted, captured, or killed without mercy. The raid left an indelible mark on Saltico. Over 100 residents were killed, and 26 women and children were taken captive. These captives faced a grim fate, forced to march back to Comanche territory, where they would be assimilated into the tribe or sold to other Native American groups. For the families left behind, the loss was devastating, both emotionally and economically. The pursuit and aftermath. In the wake of the raid, Mexican authorities mobilized reinforcements to pursue the Comanche. Soldiers from Paris del Fuego, joined by local militias, set out to recover the stolen goods and rescue the captives. The pursuit was arduous, with the Mexican forces facing the same challenges of terrain and logistics that had enabled the Comanche's success. Near the Rio Grande, the Mexicans finally caught up with the retreating raiders. The resulting skirmishes were fierce, with both sides suffering significant casualties. While the Mexicans managed to recover some of the stolen livestock and rescue a handful of captives, the Comanche ultimately escaped with the bulk of their spoils. The raid on Saltillo was a turning point in the history of northern Mexico. It exposed the vulnerabilities of the Mexican frontier and underscored the need for a more effective defense strategy. In the years that followed, Mexican authorities implemented a series of reforms aimed at strengthening their military presence in the region. However, These efforts were often undermined by political instability and economic constraints. For the Comanche, the raid represented both a triumph and a warning. While it demonstrated their ability to strike deep into enemy territory, it also highlighted the growing resistance they faced. The Mexican government's increased efforts to fortify the frontier, combined with the encroachment of American settlers and the spread of disease, marked the beginning of the decline of Comanche power. The story of the Saltillo Raid is a microcosm of the larger struggle between the Comanche and their adversaries. It illustrates the resilience and ingenuity of a people who, against overwhelming odds, carved out a place for themselves in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet it also serves as a reminder of the devastating cost of that struggle for both the Comanche and the settlers who lived in fear of their raids. The legacy of this conflict can still be seen today in the cultural memory of the region and in the enduring fascination with the Comanche as one of the most formidable Native American tribes in history. The raid on Saltillo stands as a moment of reckoning for both the Comanche and the Mexican frontier. It was a clash of worlds, a testament to the strength and determination of two cultures locked in a battle for survival. While the Comanche ultimately faded from power, their impact on the history of the Southern Plains remains profound, a legacy of resilience, adaptation, and the enduring human spirit.